Happy Sabbath. Today is, let's see, September 17, 2016. We've been studying midnight, and turns out there's so much about midnight to study. But we realized that there is the predictions that are being given, right? The predictions are given at midnight at the time of Daniel. Let's see. Let me go in Daniel 5 and Daniel 6. Daniel 5 and Daniel 6. Okay. Daniel 5 and Daniel 6. Remember, Daniel was giving a prediction to Nebuchadnezzar about the tree that is being chopped down, and Nebuchadnezzar is the tree, and that tree, and that he has to what? He actually has to suffer and eat grass like the beasts in the field, like the wild asses in the field. And then Daniel 6, Daniel had to give a interpretation of the prediction that was given at midnight, right? Because he was standing right here giving the prediction, which is the writing on the wall that was written at midnight. Here about what is going to happen to Nebuchadnezzar and Babylon at the close of their probation when the kings of the east comes, right? So Daniel, when in his younger days, is typifying Josiah Litch, right? And then Daniel giving the message to Belshazzar is typifying Samuel Snow, all right? Okay, so we studied a little bit about Josiah Litch, all right? And Josiah Litch gave several predictions. He actually had it published, his predictions 3 times. All right. Okay, we go through this. The first prediction was in 1838. Right. He published that the close of the second woe would happen sometime in August 1840, and that close of the second woe is the Ottoman Empire will be restrained, right? The supremacy of the Ottoman Empire will be reduced. It's given up to the European powers, right? It's not that the Ottoman Empire is wiped out, okay? But the Ottoman Empire's supremacy will have to be given up to the European powers. And he says sometime in August of 1840, right? And then his second prediction, that it will end that period, that the second woe will end in August 1840. So he says August 1840. Now this is in May 1840, he said. He published this, right? But this is essentially the same, this is basically the same message, right? It's the same message. But 10 days prior to it, then he fine-tuned the prediction. He says, it will end in the 11th of August, 1840, just 10 days before 1840. Okay? So 1840, August 11, 1840, was when the Ottoman Empire power was broken, okay, and given up to the 4 European powers, right? And he made his first prediction in 1838. He gave that same prediction in May, but then he fine-tuned it on August 1, 1840. He made a fine-tuning of that prediction. And that prediction was predicting what? It's about what? Right there. Islam. is about Islam. So at midnight, for us, we're going to have to give a prediction about Islam, right? Because this is talking about us too. We're going to have to give a prediction about Islam. All right. Okay. That's Josiah Litch. Okay. And this prediction was the end of a time prophecy, the 391 years and 15-day prophecy, right? And how did they figure this out? By what method? Year-day principle, right? And that vindicated that method. By that method, William Miller's rules of interpretation, the year-day principle, were they able to figure this out, right? This prophecy, and they got the date exactly right on their target, right? And because of that, there's a lot of people that came into the message because they said, well, if the Millerites could get this right, then they're probably correct when the Millerites are already predicting that Jesus is going to come in 1843. So it gave Ellen White says, it gives an impetus to the message, right? Okay, so Josiah Litch in 1838, he gives a message about 1840. This is one time in the Bible. There's possibly other times in the Bible, but the year is actually something that's prophetically significant. 1838 and 1840, 38 and 40. Is there something in the Bible that teaches us about 38 and 40? All right, this is actually something that you don't see very often, right? How could it be? Could the Bible actually be teaching about a year? Yeah. Okay, it's in Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy 2, verse 13 to 18. Now rise up. When you look up in your eSword, in the Bible, in your eSword, and look up the word 38, there's only 4 times it's in the Bible. Yeah. Here's in Deuteronomy 2, verse 13 to 18. Now rise up. Is rising up significant? Yes. And get you over the brook Zered. And we came over the brook Zered. And the space in which we came from Kadesh Barnea until we were come over the brook Zered was 38 years. What happened at Kadesh Barnea 38 years ago? All the generation of the men of war were wasted out from among the host, as the Lord sware unto them. Who's the men of the war that were wasted out 38 years ago at Kadesh Barnea? Who were these men of war? No. Obviously, this is the time of Moses. The time of Moses. And they, at Kadesh Barnea, what happened? They sent spies into Canaan. Who went? How many spies went? 12 spies. And who there were 2 spies that believed that they had the power to go in and conquer the Canaanites. But the others, did not want to go in. And so what happened to them? They were told that they had to go walk around in the desert again. They can't. It says, you can't go. Okay, now go walk around in the desert until all of you die. These are the men of war that did not believe that they can go in. What happened to them? They all had to die, right, without going. So at Kadesh Barnea, right, after Kadesh Barnea, they all had to go and wander in the desert, right? They had to be wasted out in the desert. They had to all die. For indeed the hand of the Lord was against them, to destroy them from among the hosts until they were consumed. They had to be purged, right? They had to be purged out. After 38 years, they had to be purged out of the children of Israel, because these are the men of war that did not have faith that they can go and conquer Canaan. And then the Lord spake unto me, saying, Thou art to pass over through Ar, the coast of Moab, this day. If you back up into Deuteronomy 1 verse 3, when was it that they came into the brook Zereth? And it came to pass in the 40th year, in the 11th month, on the first day of the month, that Moses spake unto the children of Israel, according to all that the Lord had given him in commandment unto them. This is 40th year. This 38, it's been 38 years since Kadesh Barnea, but it's in the 40th year of what? The first day of the first month. What is that? 40th year since what? Coming out of Ramses, coming out of Egypt. Right? Because the first day of the first month started where? With the plagues, right? Right? Yeah. So it's been 40 years. So the 38 years is the same as 40, right? It's been 38 years ago that you did not believe that you could conquer Canaan. But it's 40 years ago that you came out of Egypt, right? So that, yeah, there you go. It's one generation. So that point in time is actually 38 and 40, right? Did you get it? Right?
So 38 years ago is when 12 spies came.
Right, when the 12 spies did not believe. And because of that, those 10 warriors, they had to die. They had to be purged out. They had to be let, all of them die.
They couldn't go in.
They couldn't go in. It took them 38 years for all of them to die.
Before when they're about to go in.
They're about to go in now. They're about to go in and conquer Jericho.
Okay.
Yeah, right? So 38 years ago, they're standing right here. 38 years ago, you did not believe. 40 years ago, you came out of what?
So it was supposed to be 2 years after the Exodus.
Right. Yeah, they could have gone in.
They could have gone in 2 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But they were wondering, right? Okay, so at this point in time, it's 38 and 40, right? Yeah, this is the 38th year and the 40th year. Right? It's the same thing. You get it? Okay, 38 is 40. So the 38th year that Josiah Litch was predicting about the 40th year is the same thing, because it's the midnight cry and the midnight. Midnight is midnight cry. It's what was say at the School of Prophets is like time dilation. It's a period of time, is actually a point in time, because the 38th year is the 40th year, right? So now that you have a little bit of that understanding, what happened then, all right? What happened it's a purging. So 38 is also a purging, right? But it's also midnight. Okay? And because that is a fulfillment of what happened to them, because they we just read Numbers 14:33 to 35. And your children shall wander in the wilderness 40 years, and bear your whoredoms until your carcasses shall be wasted in the wilderness. See, these are the carcasses of the men of war, right? Until they're all wasted in the wilderness. After the numbers of days which ye search the land. How many days did they search the land? How many days did the spy search the land?
40 days.
40 days. Because you searched the land for 40 days, and then you did not want to go in there even after searching it for 40 days. What do you have to do? Even 40 days, each day for a
year. There's the year day.
There's the year day principle. Right? So the year day principle came in the beginning of the Israelite history. Right? In the book of Numbers here, or book of Numbers 14 verse 34. That was 40 days of wandering in Canaan, and when you came out, you didn't want to go back in. So that way, you're not going to go back in for another 40 years. 1 day for a year. A year day principle was given right there. Okay? All right. Yeah. We'll get back to this later on because another year-day principle was given during the time of Ezekiel, right? The 1 day for a year. Okay. It's also 40 years in Ezekiel 4. But anyway, here. So the 40 days of wandering, of spying the land, but you still did not have faith to go in. That way, you have to be purged out. All of you that do not have that faith are purged out for 38 years. Okay? All right. Deuteronomy 2, verse 24. And so what happened to them after they cross over the brook Zered? They're able to conquer several other nations, and then they went across Jordan and went into Jericho. But before they went into Jericho, remember the spies? There was 2 spies that went into Jericho and went and met, who was the? Rahab. And Rahab was a harlot there. And what did Rahab say to the 2 spies? And it's found in Joshua 2, verse 9 to 11. Right? We already heard of you. And we already are afraid of you. Why? Because your reputation has already preceded. Your God has already, led you and against all these nations, and then now you're going to come upon us. So they are already fearing Joshua, right? Even before he came. Rahab and the people of Jericho were already afraid. Okay. Deuteronomy 2, verse 24 to 25. Rise ye up, take your journey, pass over the river Arnon. Behold, I have given unto thine hand Sihon the Amorite, king of Heshbon, and his land. Begin to possess it, and contend with him in battle. This day will I begin to put the dread of thee and the fear of thee upon the nations that are under the whole heaven. And who shall hear report of thee, and shall tremble and be in anguish because of thee. So what happens at midnight? You're going to give a prediction. What happens when that prediction comes true? The dread and the fear of thee will be upon the nations, right? And they will tremble because the prediction came true, right? Yeah. So this happened. This happened to Samuel. Samuel was called 3 times, and then Samuel was given the vision that what is going to happen to the house of Eli. And then after that, Samuel became a prophet, and they all knew that there was a prophet among them, because then they all had respect for him, right? Even though he was just a small boy, he was able to give the prediction of what's going to happen to Eli. And when it happened, they all knew that there was a prophet among them, just this little boy. All right? Okay. All right. There's another 38. We're going to go through these 38s now. This one is in John 5, verse 2 to 9. John 5. Now there is at Jerusalem by the sheep market a pool, the pool of Bethesda. And what happened at the pool of Bethesda? There's a lot of sick people who are impotent, blind, halt, and withered, waiting for the troubling of the water. Yeah, there's a troubling. All right? Is there a troubling at midnight? Yeah, because they're troubled. The kings were troubled, right? There's also a troubling of the water here. Whosoever will go first, they will be cured of their disease, right? We know the story. And a certain man was there which had an infirmity. How many years? 38 years. So there's a 38 right there. The 38 years of this man who was sick. There's a troubling of the water. There's a history of troubling of water there. And the angel There was a supernatural being that troubles the water. And those who can jump in will be made whole. And Jesus saw him lie and know that he had been now a long time in that case. He said to him, "Wilt thou be made whole?" The impotent man answered him, "Sir, I have no man when the water is troubled, and put me in the pool. And while I am coming, another steppeth down before me." Jesus said unto him, "Rise, take up thy bed, and walk." See, there's a rising. There's a rising at 38, right? And immediately the man was made whole. And it was a Sabbath, right? Okay, so there's a rising, there's a purging, all right? There's a troubling also at midnight. Okay, but that's not all. You know, the story still goes on. Because verse 14 to 18, and Jesus found him and said unto him, "Behold, thou art made whole. Sin no more." What happens? Sin no more, right? After you're given the prediction, you don't sin anymore because your character is already perfect. Sin no more. The man departed and told the Jews that it was Jesus which made him whole. And what happened? The Jews persecuted Jesus. Why? Because he was healing on the Sabbath day, right? And they said, "Hey," but Jesus answered them, "My Father worketh hitherto, and I work." Therefore the Jews sought more to kill him, because he had not only had he broken the Sabbath, but said also that God was his Father, making himself equal with God. So the Jews persecuted. At midnight, are they going to persecute you? What are they going to accuse you of? Breaking the Sabbath, but also what? Blasphemy. How are they going to accuse you of blasphemy? Because you are going to say that Jesus is the Son of God, and that he is not co-eternal with the Father. Ooh. Right? And because he is the Son of God, he is equal with God. It is not because he is co-eternal with the Father. Wow. So the understanding of the Jews at that time was very different than the truth of Jesus, right? So in our time, we're living right at midnight now, right at the time of midnight. Our understanding of the Son of God has to be very different than what the spiritual Jews' understanding of God the Son is. Because how are we going to be accused of blasphemy if our understanding is the same? Right? Yeah. And this happens at midnight. Remember what Caiaphas asked Jesus? "Are you the Son of God?" And Jesus has said, "You said it." And then says, "Well, you're proclaiming blasphemy." When was that? At midnight. Here? At 38. When there's a troubling of water, when there's a purging, and there's a accusation of blasphemy, and when you sin no more. Right there. This is all at midnight, right? Okay. All right. There's another 38. 1 Kings 16, verse 29 to 31. And in the 38th year of Asa, king of Judah, began Ahab the son of Omri to reign over Israel. And Ahab the son of Omri reigned over Israel 22 years. And he did evil in the sight of the Lord above all that were before him. Oh, he was more wicked than everybody, all the other kings before him. And it came to pass, it had been a light thing for him to walk in the sins of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, that he took wife Jezebel, the king of Ethbaal of the Zidonians, and went and served Baal and worshipped him. So what happened on the 38 also? Ahab became king, and what did Ahab do? married Jezebel. Okay. So there's a false marriage there, right? And Jezebel is a daughter of the king of Zidonian. Zidonian is the Phoenicia, Sidon. Tyre and Sidon, Zidonia. Phoenicia, near Lebanon, towards the north a little bit, right? That's Zidonia. Okay. So Jezebel represents the evil church, right? And Ahab represents who? Ahab represents the king of the 10 tribes of the north, which is the dragon, right? Right. United Nations, right? And the United Nations is going to marry who's Jezebel? The beast, the evil church, right? When is Ahab, the king of the United Nations, going to marry Jezebel, the evil church beast? Yeah, which is the 38th of Asa. Is that at midnight? No, they can't be at midnight. Where is that? That's at the Sunday law. It's got to be, because that's when the seventh kingdom is going to be given to the eighth kingdom for an hour, right? Right? The seventh kingdom is United Nations. It's going to be given to the eighth kingdom. This is the eighth kingdom, Jezebel. The seventh kingdom is United Nations. Going to be given to Jezebel. They're going to reign for 1 hour, right? That's Revelation 17. Okay. Wow. There's going to be an unholy marriage at the Sunday law. And the 38 is also a Sunday law, at the Sunday law, because the 38 is a purging time. But it's not the purging time for the priests. It's purging time for the Nethinims, right? For those of the northern stick, right? The northern stick, that's the Nethinims. It's got to be a purging. Okay. All right. This may sound, we're going to have to put this all together. There's a lot of concepts right here. That's 38. Okay, there's another 38. In the 38th year of Azariah, which is Uzziah, king of Judah, did Zechariah, the son of Jeroboam, reign over Israel in Samaria 6 months. All right? The 38th year, we have to put this down together. We have to write this down on the sticks, all right, to get it together. All right? You remember who Zechariah is. Zechariah is the son of Jeroboam. Right? After Jeroboam is Zechariah. And after that is Shallum, remember? After Shallum is Menahem. Remember? Okay. How is Zechariah, what has Zechariah have anything to do with Shallum? All right, let's read this. And Zechariah, he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, and his father had done. And he departed not from the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, who made Israel to sin. And Shallum, the son of Jabesh, conspired against him. So Shallum killed Zechariah, right? And smote him before the people and slew him. Why? What's the significance of that? And the rest of the acts of Zechariah, behold, they are written in the books of the Chronicles of King of Israel. This was the word of the Lord which he spake unto Jehu. Remember this Jehu? Who's Jehu? He's the one that purged the house of Ahab. Right? Who was he pointing to right here? Jezebel. Right? And what happened to Jezebel? She was pushed off the ledge by the eunuchs. And she fell to her death. Right? So who purged the house of Ahab? Jehu. Okay. What happened to Jehu? This was the word of the Lord which he spake unto Jehu, saying, Thy sons shall sit on the throne of Israel unto the fourth generation. And so it came to pass. So because Jehu did a good deed, what was his deed? He purged the house of Ahab, right? He killed Jezebel and the sons of Jezebel and all all the house of Ahab. Jehu did a good thing. And because of that, his sons will be kings for 4 generations. 4 generations. Is that significant? Oh, yeah. Right? It's very significant. Because when you count it, the 4th generation comes to Zechariah. And what happens to Zechariah? Zechariah is purged by Shalom. Right? So the 4th generation of Jehu is also purged. Okay? All right? If this is a little confusing, let me try to figure this out. Let's do. We've done this chronology before, but I change it in a little bit just to show what it means, to show what 38 means. Okay? All right. Remember, this is Salmon, Boaz, Obed, Jesse, and Jesse had David, right? David had Solomon. But here Saul comes. Saul is the first king, David the second, Solomon is the third. Okay, remember this? Here are the women that contributed to the genealogy of Jesus, right? Right. But Saul obviously did not. I just put that in. Saul did not add to the genealogy of Jesus. It was through here, right? Okay. So I added Saul just because I wanted to show that Saul is the first king that ruled over Judah also, right? David, then obviously, and Solomon. Okay? But then it goes down this way. It goes to Rehoboam, Abijah, Asa, Jehoshaphat, Jehoram, Ahaziah, right? And Jehoash. Ahaziah, Joash, all the way down to Manasseh, right? And from Manasseh is the first of the last 7 kings, right? So this is the line of Judah, right? Now Jehosheba is the sister of Ahaziah. She is the aunt of Jehoash who saved Jehoash from Athaliah, the evil queen. Remember? Okay. Solomon's kingdom was rent into 2, right? Rehoboam goes down this way, and then Jeroboam goes down this way. Now I purposely put it this way because Jeroboam's son was Nadab, and Nadab was killed by Baasha. So Baasha is not the son of Nadab, but Nadab was killed by Baasha. Baasha had a son, Elah, and Elah was killed by Zimri, and Zimri was overthrown by Omri.
They're brothers?
They're not.
Oh.
Right. So these are not related to Elah. Right. Okay. Zimri killed Elah, and Zimri then died, then Omri took over. They're not related. Right. And then Omri's son is Ahab. And obviously Ahab married Jezebel. Right? But then we know the story of Ahab and Jezebel. And Jehu was picked by which prophet picked Jehu to purge? It's Elisha. Elisha, right? Elisha picked Jehu. What Jehu, your job is to what? Purge the house of Ahab. So Jehu killed who? Obviously Jezebel. And then the 70 sons of Jezebel. And then Jehoram also, because Ahaziah actually already died. Ahaziah, the son of Ahab, already died. So Jehoram was also killed by Jehu. 70 children of Ahab. Ahab had 70 sons, including Ahaziah and Jehoram. Wow. Right, obviously, because Jezebel can't have 72 sons. But Ahab had also Ahaziah and Jehoram. Jehoram was killed by Jehu. The ones in red is the ones that Jehu killed. Jezebel, 70 sons, Jehoram. But the thing about this, that Ahab already made an alliance with Jehoshaphat. Remember? they went and fought the king of Syria, and as a token of their alliance, the daughter of Ahab married the son of Jehoram, right? That's what happens in those days, right? If you have an alliance, what do? You marry the kids, right?
There's unholy alliance.
Yes. So Athaliah, that evil grandmother, was actually married to Jehoram, the son of Jehoshaphat. And their son is Ahaziah. Don't get that confused with this Ahaziah, because this is Ahaziah's right here. Ahaziah is the son of Athaliah. But Jehu
Also
killed. Right.
Killed him too?
Yep.
Because that was a descendant. Ahab.
And 42 other. Right? Right. See, Jehu killed Ahaziah. And then when Jezebel saw that Jehu already killed Ahaziah, Jehu called Ahaziah. When Athaliah saw that Jehu already called Ahaziah, Athaliah killed all her grandchildren, the children of Ahaziah, except Jehoash, which is Joash, was saved. He was hidden by the aunt, Jehosheba, which is the sister of Ahaziah. Right? This story is complicated.
Yeah.
It's very intricate. But when you realize that this has a purpose, what was the purpose? Jehu. Jehu had to purge the house of Ahab. Okay. And Jezebel, what was the fate of Jezebel? And how did she actually eaten by the dogs? Eaten by the dogs. All right. Jezebel was eaten by the dogs. Right. Jezebel died of Ahab. Now the Bible actually says that Jezebel died of Ahab. I didn't know what that means. What does it mean? Jezebel died of Ahab. Because of the sins of Ahab. Right. And was eaten by the dogs. All right. Okay. All right. Jezebel died of Ahab because of the sins of Ahab. Now, okay. All right. So, on the 38th year of Asa, Ahab became king. And then he married Jezebel. And was there a troubling at 38? Remember, there's a troubling of waters when Jesus healed that lame person. Was Ahab troubled? Do you remember a story where Ahab was troubled? What did it say? Are you the trouble of Israel? Ahab says, are you the trouble of Israel causing all this famine? And what did Elijah say? You are the troubler of. There's a troubling. Yeah. All right. Okay. And Jehu purged the house of Ahab. All right. There's another 38. In the 38th year of Uzziah, which is Azariah, Zechariah became king. Right? And who killed Zechariah? Shalom. Shalom king killed Zechariah. Why? Because he is the fourth generation of Jehu. Count it. 1, 2, 3, 4. He's the fourth generation right there. He's the fourth generation, and Shalom had to kill him. So 38 is also the purging of Jehu. So you realize this whole Israel had to be purged. Now this is the stick of the north. The stick of the north had to be purged, right? Jehu purged Ahab. Shalom purged Zechariah. Purged the house of Jehu, right? Oh. Anyway, that is when you realize all these things actually happened for an understanding of what actually is going to happen at our time. Okay, now this is what they did last night. I'm going to do it here because I remember I told you I did this already. Here it is. I did this. Okay. All right. You gotta, you gotta put out your thinking caps because this gets a little complicated. All right. All right. Here we go. Saul, David, Solomon, Rehoboam, Abijah, Asa, and Jehoshaphat. These are the first 7 kings that ruled over Judah, right? Saul, you can line them up at 1989. David was anointed, became, right? The horn of David budded, right? At 9/11. Solomon opened the temple. That's midnight. Rehoboam was when the kingdom was divided, all right? And then Abijah, and then Asa. Asa was the good king Asa. He lived for a long, he was not the longest, but he lived for a long time. And there was 7 kings of Israel during his reign. Yeah, Jeroboam, Nadab, Baasha, Elah, Zimri, Omri, and Ahab. Asa became the king in the 20th year of Jeroboam. Right? Jeroboam was king for 20 years, and then Asa became king. And then they all die. And then Ahab became king at the 38th year of Ahab became king at the 38th year of Asa. So these 7 kings here is like the 7 thunders for the northern stick, right? They have to go through their purging. Okay, this is the part that I just realized just now when making this, right? Okay, in 1 King 14 verse 11. 1 King 14:11. Nadab, right here, Nadab was killed by Baasha. And Nadab was killed of Jeroboam. All right? Nadab is killed of Jeroboam. So Nadab was killed because of the sins of Jeroboam by Baasha. All right? And it also says that who dieth of Jeroboam is eaten by dogs. Who dieth of Jeroboam is eaten by dogs. So Nadab is the one that's eaten by dogs. Right? Because Nadab was killed because of the sins of Jeroboam. Right? Okay. Now, go to 1 Kings 16 verse 4. Right? Him that dieth of Baasha shall the dogs eat. So Elah died of Baasha. Baasha was a bad king. Elah was the son of Baasha. But Zimri had to kill Elah, who died of Baasha, and Elah was eaten by dogs. Now, I say, what is this eaten by dogs? Why is this eaten by dogs so significant? So, Nadab was eaten by dogs for the sins of Jeroboam. Elah was eaten by dogs for the sins of Baasha. All right? Now, let's see, who else was eaten by dogs? 1 King 21 verse 24. Jezebel died of Ahab, right? Eaten by dogs. So here is eaten by dog, here's eaten by dog. It's about all being eaten by dogs. Eaten by dogs is actually a significant symbol of purging. Right? You're being purged. Here, the northern kingdom is purged. And we just looked it up. Who else was eaten by dogs? Who stood up at midnight from the table from the disciples and went into the night to betray Jesus?
Judas.
Judas.
He was eaten by
And then he hanged himself, right? And then when he fell, his bowels was spread out, and Ellen White said he was eaten by dogs. Because the Bible, for some reason, we cannot find it in the Bible that he was eaten by dogs. But who said that he was eaten by dogs? Ellen White. So a purging also means being eaten by dogs. Right. Yeah. Okay.
And also, 21. Him that dieth of Ahab in the city, the dogs shall eat. Him that dieth in the field, the fowls shall eat.
That's right. Yeah.
In
So
the
it's
city.
in the city. Don't stay in the cities. But anyway, during your close of probation, make sure you don't die in the city. But anyway, all right. So this is a 38 right there, right? Because Ahab became king in the 38th year of Asa. All right. Okay. All right. Is that complicated enough? Is that very complicated? It's very complicated. But you know what? You got to study it for yourself. If you study it for yourself, you just say it's complicated. I don't need to know it. I feel sorry for those who actually, just leave it, because you do have to study. All right. But here, then you have the seven last kings of Judah: Manasseh, Amon, Josiah, Jehoahaz, Jehoiakim, Jehoiachin, and Zedekiah. All right, and that's we know this is the southern. This is the stick, right? The southern stick. All right, but then you have the northern stick: Jeroboam, Zechariah, Shallum, Menahem, Pekahiah, Pekah, and Hoshea. Right? When are these two sticks joined together spiritually? Because this is not. Now this is chronological, right? This is chronological because Rehoboam was split from Jeroboam. This is a chronological split right here. But this is Jehoiachin did not get joined with Jeroboam. This is a spiritual joining, right? Jehoiachin is spiritually joined at midnight cry. Okay? Right, remember that? And at the Sunday law, Zechariah and Zedekiah represents the joining, the complete joining. Okay? All right. We've done this already before, but we have to add in some more kings here. There's 9 kings right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right. This king is King Azariah, which is King Uzziah. On the 38th year of this king was Zechariah, right there. Right? On the 38th year of Azariah, Zechariah became king. And what happened to him? He was purged by Shallum, right? Ahab became king on the 38th year of Asa, and what happened to him? His house was purged by Jehu, right? Jehu, right there. Jehu purged the house of Ahab, right? And then from Jehu, there's 4 generations. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the house of Jehu was purged also by Shallum. There's a purging at 38. There's a purging at 38 right here. And this 38 purging is at the Sunday law. It's the purging of the Nethinims, the northern stick, right? It's the northern stick that is being purged. Okay? All right. Wow. That's pretty complicated. But once you put this down right here, I think it's a little bit easier to see. But just to show that there's that 38 is a significant. It's a significant waymark. All right. Okay. Now, Josiah, we did this already. Josiah Litch represents Daniel. And who represents Daniel again at time of Belshazzar? Samuel Snow. All right. So now we'll do, where are we? We'll do a little bit, go into, we've done Samuel Snow. How is the prophecies of Samuel Snow same as the prophecy of Daniel at the time of Belshazzar? Okay. What did Samuel Snow write down? Right. Okay. Here is Samuel Snow's article in April 1844. Right. April 3, 1844. He said that it requires 457 and 26 entire years to make 480 years. But as we have seen in the part of 457 BC, it must be left out. So what he's saying, it has to be from fall of 457 to the fall of 1844. It has to be a full year. It's the fullness of time understanding, right? So he was predicting that Jesus was going to come in the fall of 1844 based on the understanding of the fullness of year principle, right? He published this first in April 3, 1844. Okay. Now I had to make sure I actually have I made a copy of this, right? Okay. All right. Now this is what he actually, the autumn. We've studied this before. Just a review from autumn of AD 27. 2,300 years, full 2,300 years later will end in the autumn of 1844. So from autumn to autumn, right? See, that's what he wrote in April 3, 1844, right? April 3, 1844. Okay. Now, remember this is April. What happened in July 21? He went to the Boston Tabernacle. And what did he preach there? Behold, the bridegroom cometh on the 10th day of the 7th month. Go ye out to meet him. This is now midnight. Now you realize that he actually was predicting before midnight. Yeah. But this was when it actually started taking traction. People started to understand it. Okay. Now this is August 14, 1844. This was published on August 14, right? But he wrote this on August 8, 1844. Now, August 14, 1844 was the Camp Exeter, right? Because he went to the Camp Exeter meeting and he gave his talks about the midnight cry on August 14 and August 15. But he actually wrote it on August 8. What did he write? From the autumn of AD 27, these 1817 years reached to the autumn of 1844. The dispensation of the fullness of time will upon us within 3 months, right? On August, he says, oh, it's going to be 3 months before Jesus is going to come, right? Then he was giving the midnight cry. The 70 weeks, the first day of the first month, Ezra 7:9. Ezra 7:9 says that the Jewish people were to come out of Babylon, and Ezra came out, and he found out there was only just priests, and he needed Levites and Nethinims come out. And then when they arrived, it was the first day of the 5th month in Jerusalem. All right. Based on that understanding, they knew what the first day of the first month was. When they knew what the first day of the first month was, then they can go forward and find out what the 10th day of the 7th month is. And then they figured out it was October 22, 1844. So their understanding of what happened on October 22, 1844 was based upon their understanding of Ezra 7:9, right? Ezra 7:9. Okay? All right. August 22, 1844, Samuel Snow. He was saying that the 2300 years will reach unto autumn 1844 on August 22. This is afterwards. What did Leroy Froome write down in his Prophetic Faith of Our Fathers? Yeah. Leroy Froome is a very good historian, right? He's a very good historian. It said, their correction of a previously recognized error in calculation brought about the shift from 1843 to 1844. The 70 weeks both began and ended in the autumn. The Mosaic tabernacle types indicate the second advent will occur in the autumn, not in the spring, but on the Day of Atonement, the 10th day of the 7th month, right? Snow continued as he believed the antitypical Day of Atonement will come on the exact day as specified, on October 22, 1844, right? The error in calculation, we know that, they had 3 types of errors, right? The error of the fullness of year, the error of the understanding of the sanctuary, and also the error of when the equinox is, right? Remember the errors that they had. Okay. What Samuel Snow came to the Exeter camp meeting on the first day. He started giving his midnight cry, and they were very impressed with it. That they said, "Okay, you have to repeat it." And he had to repeat it on the next day, right? Which was the 15th. And the 15th of August. And that 15th of August turns out that it's exactly the first day of the 5th month. And that was the midnight cry. When he gave his second preaching of the midnight cry at that time. So he did this sermon twice, on the 14th and the 15th, right?
And this is written by...
I think it was written by Leroy. Yeah, this was... Yeah, it's a continuation of Leroy Froome's book. Oh yeah, they knew the Cariite Jewish method of calculation. Leroy Froome was from the old days, All right, but then he started changing. Yeah, he started changing. Okay, who was the first ever to teach or suggest that Jesus was going to come and cleanse the temple at the harvest time in the 7th month? It was actually William Miller, right? This is he wrote this in 1843, May 17. He actually wrote it on May 3, 1843, right? But it was published on May 17th, 1843. And he wrote that the 10th day of the 7th month, that's the harvest time. The 7th month, that's the end of the world, is compared to the harvest, right? He was the first one that actually suggested, William Miller was the first one that actually suggested that Jesus was going to come in the 10th day of the 7th month, right? But then that was kind of like broadened by Samuel Snow, right? He suggested it. Okay, this is what he wrote. Will you and Brother Bliss examine and tell me what you think of my scribble on this point? He was just thinking about it. It was not really something that he was ready to preach with what. But Samuel Snow was then the one that did it, right? If this could be true, we shall not see his glorious appearing until the autumn, after the autumn equinox. Oh, he still believes in the equinox. Right? This was William Miller. He wrote on May 3rd, 1843. So how many actually made predictions then? It was Litch, Snow, and Miller. Yeah. It's not just Litch and Snow. It was actually Miller also.
A lot of people don't know. They
What?
only know William Miller.
Yeah, a lot of people don't even
It's
know.
kind of reverse.
Yeah. But actually, William Miller was the first one that started making these predictions. All right. Yeah. Okay. So here's a little summary. Miller scribbled after the autumn equinox, right? About around May 3rd, 1843, about the 7th month, the 10th day of the 7th month, right? Samuel Snow made a prediction, February 16, 1844. He wrote this in February 16, 1844. April 3, and it was published on April 3, 1844, about the autumn of 1844. Then he said that the 10th day of the 7th month, which is in the autumn of 1844, on July 21. Now this is midnight. So he was already starting to preach even before midnight. William Miller was already starting to hint about it. He scribbled about it. He kind of gave a suggestion about it before midnight, right? And then Samuel Snow gave the fullness of the time around August 8th. And October 22 was when they, on the 15th, on the second day of the Exeter camp meeting, was when they really finalized their understanding that Jesus was going to come here. They thought that Jesus was going to come here, right? So they thought that Jesus was going to come here. This is midnight. This is actually right here. Samuel Snow gave his expositions here. Then he repeated it again. He repeated here and he repeated here. Okay? All right. Okay. Their understanding came because of the knowledge that Jesus was going to come on October 22nd based on the understanding of the first day of the first month, first day of the fifth month, 10th day of the seventh month, and also the fifth day of the fourth month. When we line up on our timeline, the first day of the first month is 9/11, right? The fifth day of the fourth month is midnight. The first day of the fifth month is midnight cry. And the 10th day of the seventh month is Sunday law. All right. Okay. I think I'm just going to stop right here. That's a lot of information.
It's like
That's a lot of information. You know, when you start putting all these things together, you're gonna
really falling.
you're gonna find that it's not just Samuel Snow and Josiah Litch. It's also William Miller. All right. Now, Samuel Snow and Josiah Litch, they made kind of like two predictions, right? They made it several times, but it's really two predictions. They made two predictions, right? Daniel had to interpret the dreams of Nebuchadnezzar how many times? 2 times, right? Right? 2 times. Nebuchadnezzar had 2 dreams that Daniel had to interpret, right? 2 dreams. Who else had 2 dreams? Joseph. How many dreams that did Pharaoh have? 2 dreams. And when Joseph was in the dungeon, how many dreams did he interpret? 2 dreams. Are they significant for some reason? Yeah, because all of this actually points to the Joseph, Daniel, Pharaoh, Nebuchadnezzar, all points to the the Millerite history. So that's what we're gonna do next time. Yeah, there's a double. There's 2, and the amazing thing is that William Miller actually had 2 dreams. You know what? I think on Friday we should just read that, William Miller's dreams, right? Yeah. It's actually the Review and Herald.
Oh,
One is in the Review and Herald. The other one is in Early Writings,
I
because
know early writings.
the Early Writings has his second dream, and that becomes part of the spirit of prophecy, because Early Writings is a spirit of prophecy, right? His first dream is actually a complicated dream. It's actually the whole history of his life. He actually dreamed what was going to happen to him. He didn't know that actually that was what is going to happen, but after he died, you look at his dream, he basically dreamed the entire Millerite history. And that is significant. Those who have 2 dreams, interpret 2 dreams, and all this, many predictions, 2 interpretations, 2 dreams, they all point to the time of the Millerites and gives us the understanding of what we're going to have to predict, right? Starting at midnight. Okay? All right. And that is the more sure word of prophecy.
We cannot visit Mr. Norman.